Hello, I'm Susan Dalabrita, Vice President of Clinical Science and Consulting at Avio Health.
And I'm Maddie Colberth-Notaro, Senior Vice President of Global Operations at Avio Health. We are happy to be with you today to talk about why the time is right for virtual and decentralized trial solutions.
At Avio Health, we think that virtual is better for everyone. While the COVID pandemic has disrupted the clinical trial industry and increased the urgency and necessity for decentralized clinical trials, there are many benefits to collecting patient data remotely.
We understand that not every trial can go 100% virtual, but our experience points to the fact that any study would benefit from some virtual elements, and many more studies that are assumed could go fully virtual as well.
A recent study showed that 73% of organizations view the virtualization of clinical trials as very or extremely critical, and two-thirds of sponsors are intending to shift to virtual. But that wasn't always true, right, Maddie?
It really wasn't, Susan. I've been in this industry for over 28 years now, and I have dedicated the majority of that time working within the constraints of the traditional clinical trial approach, firmly believing that that was the best way to properly conduct a clinical trial. When I was first introduced to the decentralized clinical trial model, I have to be honest, I could not wrap my head around how that could possibly work. How could we complete research-related tasks and validated data capture without ever touching a participant? But it turns out that we really can. New technology, when used wisely, has truly revolutionized the entire landscape of the clinical trial and has filled the many gaps and alleviated the plethora of pain points that are part of the traditional clinical trial model. Avio Health is and has always been a virtual research organization since we launched in 2017. We developed and launched the first patient-centric app. We function like any other site, but we're fully virtual. And I often get asked, what does that really mean? At a brick and mortar site, you are likely to have investigators and study coordinators managing the trial. At a virtual site, well, we also have investigators and study coordinators who work remotely or virtually to attend to the needs of the participants and the patients from the comfort of their own homes. We communicate regularly via chat or email or phone or any of the above on every project and can do this anywhere around the world.
In a traditional study, there is a lot of heterogeneity associated with having to activate multiple sites at different points in time. Having a single virtual clinical team enables more accurate and precise administration of study procedures and faster overall responses to patient questions or issues and potential adverse events.
This presentation is a fruit of our experiences, having conducted over 30 fully virtual or hybrid studies over the past 3 years across 20 countries and 13 therapeutic areas. We are here to share our experiences from the trenches.
One of the biggest issues for a decentralized trial is that you typically have to hire different vendors and splice together a workflow which has evident gaps and seams. In our experience, the initial step of protocol design has to begin with the end in mind and full knowledge of the technologies and workflow that will be utilized. This is only possible if a single vendor is able to provide a 360-degree line of sight into the full patient journey.
Our studies are built, implemented, and delivered end-to-end seamlessly, marrying platform and service, beginning with the protocol design and going all the way through to analysis and reporting. We will take you through the 6 fundamental steps of an end-to-end trial and share the lessons learned when conducting clinical trials either partially or entirely remotely. We've done our best to pepper each step with real-world examples from our trials.
The first step in the virtual trial journey is study design. Suboptimal protocol design is a common cause of trial failure. In designing a decentralized trial, many traditionally site-based functions are adapted to remote home-based solutions. For example, regular measurements of vital signs at a site are transitioned to DIY home-based monitoring through the use of connected devices. Decentralized trial design involves optimal use of the right technology and strong clinical understanding of how to best meet the needs of the trial.
And it's important to know, Susan, that it's actually during the study design process that we have to be clear about the component parts of the study and how they fit together. For example, if we want to have system program notifications or participant reminders to deploy at certain time points throughout the study, Or if we want to be able to track patient compliance on the portal backend so that we can see when the participants are falling off track, then we need to build all of those very handy features right in up front.
The next step on the patient journey is recruitment. Historically, recruitment has been an issue, as traditional mechanisms rely on patients coming to a specific site, outdated intel as to where those patients are likely to be, and delays in contracting individual sites. More than 70% of potential patients live more than 2 hours away from sites. Social media targets a much larger pool of potential participants whose online behaviors point to a positive predisposition for the trial. Our recruitment methodology goes beyond the obvious patient communities and advertising hotspots and digs deeper into the countless attributes that ultimately sum to the ideal participant. The pre-screening process is done via our app, such that in a matter of minutes, a person will know if they have pre-qualified for a study. As a result, Avio Health's timeline to recruitment is on average 2 to 3 times faster than category benchmarks. Maddie has an example of our experience with recruitment timelines.
In fact, Susan, I saw how well this worked on a recent interventional GI study where we managed to enroll 400 participants for this randomized clinical trial covering the 48 contiguous states in just 24 days. The sponsor was extraordinarily pleased with those timelines, not to mention the minimized recruitment budget, and as a bonus, we achieved 85% medication adherence.
In addition, using social media to recruit for trials is also more inclusive and has the potential to vastly widen the participant pool. Given that there's a chronic problem with underrepresentation of minorities and specific demographics in trials, virtual recruitment has the power to break down these barriers.
And as an example of that, Susan, we recently used social and digital marketing campaigns to recruit participants for a dermatology study. Part of that criteria for the study was to have a stratified representation of different skin types and tones, including 50% Asian representation. We also had to ensure that the UV index was in alignment with the study criteria. So when the weather changed, we had to pivot and only enroll those participants who were residing in locations around the country that currently met the UV index guidelines for that study. Our recruitment methodology allows for that kind of flexibility, and we managed to achieve 93% medication adherence for that study.
What a difference in recruitment approach. We actually follow the weather each day.
Yep, we actually went where the sun didn't shine.
When it comes to onboarding, we respect participants' time and privacy while ensuring that we are there when they need us. Our app tells participants everything that they need to know about the project through the use of electronic or e-consent. In addition, a participant can contact our virtual clinical team whenever a question arises during the e-consent process.
On that same skin study that I mentioned earlier, for example, we had several participants that reached out during their consent review to inquire about the ingredients within the product that they were going to be testing. We were able to reassure them, of course, without revealing any of confidential study details. That's just one example of the kind of open-ended support that we provide to our participants during the very important consent review process.
Another critical onboarding element for improving data accuracy is patient training. It can also optimize patient engagement during a trial by providing interactive instruction and visual guidance. Patients are trained on their role and responsibility in the study, expectations are set, the role of placebo established, terminology and patient questionnaires defined, workflow specified, and how to use video demonstrations of wearables, biosensors, and study drug are included. We use interactive digital multimedia that resides directly within our app, and training is available 24/7 in an on-demand manner.
A perfect example of that was one of our earlier studies. Participants needed to use the Bristol stool scale to score their baby's stool, and they were struggling to score it properly. We were able to provide them with the needed training to remediate by having participants score test diapers to ensure that they understood the chart so that the data would be as accurate as possible. The app also facilitates project logistics, including participant reimbursements. In certain study designs, participants are reimbursed for their completion of study procedures. Avio Health incentivizes participants with a stipend program that is fully virtual, paying participants based on milestone achievements, providing real-time tracking of which patients are eligible and when. Our global payment system provides participants anywhere in the world with a gift card in their own currency. Everything is electronic, trackable, and compliant.
Another important element of logistics is supply shipment. We arrange for home delivery and tracking of investigational drug supplies and devices. Here too, everything is triggered, tracked, and managed virtually via the platform and app. We provide assurance that the right product or device gets to the right person.
That's so true, Susan. For instance, we had a study where we had to randomize and send 4 different product samples to participants, ensuring that everyone got the right one. We were able to confirm receipt of the product by having participants take a picture of both the product and the code on it and upload it to the app. When the system matched the code that associated with their unique record, the participant was informed that they can proceed with the study.
Exactly, Maddie. That's just one more way that patients can engage in decentralized trials easily from the comfort of their homes, and sponsors can be assured of quality outcomes. In addition, patients enter their data directly through the app on their smartphones rather than waiting for a specified site visit. This means that data is more accurate and real time. Data can be entered via questionnaires or patients uploading photos, audio, or video of specific events. Our central clinical experts can read and score images, audio, and video for improved accuracy in patient-reported outcomes. We can also integrate wearables and biosensor data within the app. When data capture is made easy, compliance and accuracy improve. Maddie is a terrific example of this to share.
In this study, a global company needed to track hot flash frequency, menopause symptoms, and quality of life. Women were asked to take the required dosage, update e-diaries daily, and complete digital questionnaires along with a one-click indicator each time they had a hot flash, and a quick follow-up to indicate how intense it was. The hot flash button enabled our sponsor to more accurately determine the frequency of hot flashes than they were able to do using the traditional methodology. We were able to validate the positive impact of the investigational product on quality of life. Of course, we always want to know what our participants think of the journey within this process, so we've asked them to provide their feedback. We thought it was best to let you hear it for yourself.
Like when I was at work, if I was on a break, I'd be poking around, like answering questions if I had some time.
I also like to exercise and stuff, so like I have meals spaced out and everything. So it was like, oh man, it's about that time and I gotta make sure I fit this in.
It was convenient. I could reach someone even though there was a time difference.
When I had like a problem or something, if I just write the message to whoever is there, they responded like almost right away.
There was always some type of notification, like in multiple ways, so you couldn't miss it.
I would just get the notification and then I would just go to the app, and it was just easy to just go through and mark my answer, go to the next one and hit submit.
Patients are seeing how easy it is to use data capture on our app. But we know that keeping up with the workflow of a trial can be particularly challenging for caregivers. When conducting a GI study to measure infant crying frequency, duration, and intensity, we used audio recording to address this issue. Caregivers paired an ambient speaker to their smartphone within the Avio Health app, and instances of infant crying were automatically recorded and transmitted to our database. We also asked caregivers to rate the duration of their baby's episode of crying. Caregivers inflated the length of the cry on average 2 to 4-fold. This data suggests that the caregiver stress and anxiety significantly inflates their ability to provide an accurate rating. By directly capturing events in real time, we substantially reduced some of the inherent biases in EPRO. Another big benefit of virtual monitoring is the ability to monitor medication adherence and potential adverse events and serious adverse events in near real time. Because patients enter their data as they complete an activity, we can track compliance with investigational drugs and send an alert or call a patient if they've missed one or more doses. We use an escalating system of reminders, and it is proven to significantly improve medication adherence. The app also gives us the ability to capture adverse events in near real time. Patients respond to a daily question to determine whether anything in their medical status has changed. If affirmative, the system asks further questions to capture the scope of the issue. Then, our virtual clinical team contacts the person via email, phone call, or chat to determine whether an adverse event occurred and create an electronic case report.
And herein lies one of the most compelling reasons why a decentralized clinical trial is so very critical in our industry. Real-time capture and processing of adverse events is a gift. That is one of the biggest pain points in the traditional clinical trial model. In a traditional trial setting, a participant leaves your office and many times you won't learn about the adverse event until you see them again at the next visit. But not with a decentralized clinical trial. It's real-time capture, real-time study team response, and real-time processing. We also use MEDRA coding in the backend to code our events. We also capture concomitant medications. The participants enter the medications, dose, and frequency in free text. Our virtual team reviews the participant medication record for accuracy and for inconsistencies, as does our data management team. We use HUDRA coding in the backend to code our concomitant medications.
Until recently, it was assumed that patients needed to travel for certain types of research-related assessments. However, inroads in the development of accurate and 510(k) cleared medical devices for in-home use enable patients in clinical trials to do much of this from home, opening up a world of opportunity for more convenient capture of real-world data. We are currently planning a study with Hill Biopharma, a specialty pharmaceutical company listed on NASDAQ and focused on GI and infectious diseases. The study is intended to test the safety and efficacy on non-hospitalized COVID-19 patients of an oral investigational drug, upamostat. Upamostat is a serine protease inhibitor active against a number of human serine proteases. It has demonstrated in vitro inhibition of SARS-CoV-2 viral replication. Hill is awaiting allowance from the FDA to proceed with the study. The trial is intended to evaluate this treatment via a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Studies to date conducted on treatments like remdesivir have focused on intravenous medications for hospitalized patients. Yet, the majority of patients with COVID-19 are fortunately not being hospitalized. They are told to self-isolate, rest, and take symptomatic medications. This highlights a significant unmet medical need for an oral, easily administered medication for treatment of symptomatic COVID-19 patients at home. After enrolling in a study at a clinical site, patients will be sent home with study drug and several devices to collect both telemetric information and patient-reported information, both critical to capturing patient data for determining safety and efficacy of the investigational treatment. These will include temperature, respiratory and pulse rates, blood pressure, pulse oximetry, electrocardiograms, and weight. Participants will complete a daily symptoms diary at home via the app and will receive a system program reminder when the assessment is due. The reminders boost compliance, while the immediacy of the reporting allows us to reach out to those who are lapsing before it becomes a recurring issue.
There are nonetheless situations in which professional medical assessments are needed. The goal in these instances is to make the process as easy as possible for the patient. In some studies, telehealth visits can be a viable option. In others, research-trained home healthcare nurses can conduct procedures ranging from simple blood draws to complex intravenous drug administration, enabled by technologies that can be used from patients' home. For the Hill study, it was determined that home healthcare nurses would make in-home visits at various points during the study to check in on patients, collect blood samples for certain laboratory parameters, perform virus PCR swabs at home, and assist in certain patient-reported data capture, making them as convenient as possible for the patient while enabling the research team to analyze the results in real time. By structuring the study for only a single initial site visit and then following with a combination of ePro, device use, and in-home visits, we're able to cost-effectively collect high-quality and reliable data while minimizing the disruption in patients' lives. Once all the data has been captured, Avio Health's end-to-end capabilities enables us to store it in one location rather than the traditional multi-database solutions that require multiple vendors. The data can be more easily aggregated and presented for analytical review in real time. Typical time for an Avio Health data lock is about 30 days. And in some cases, and because of our technology, we have been able to reach database lock in as little as 2 weeks. Importantly, the data is also readily accessible to sponsors so that they can stay up to speed on the status of their studies at any time. We have built a standard set of analytics for display on the sponsor's dashboard, but we can also customize the data display to include additional items that the sponsor would like oversight of.
Thanks, Maddie. That is definitely beginning with the end in mind to be able to accelerate the time to database lock. For years, the industry has speculated that apps on cell phones would not be a viable strategy for retaining patients in clinical trials, that compliance might decline and patients may not comply with the study protocol requirements. Our experience has shown that not only is none of this the case, but that better and more complete data sets are captured from patients virtually. In fact, these digital strategies have worked so well and lowered patient burden so much that our average rates of retention are significantly higher than those of the industry. To sum up, decentralized clinical trials have a number of advantages. They are faster, with more efficient digital recruitment, streamlined study creation, onboarding and remote monitoring, with reduced dropout rates and studies ending on time or ahead of schedule. They are safer. There is little to no need to travel to clinical sites and near real-time reporting of adverse events and serious adverse events. They are more real-world and real-time, as data is entered proximal to the event directly from the patient's homes, and remote monitoring facilitates intervention and remediation. And they are also more accurate and more reliable. The fact that we are E by design, along with the capture of structured and unstructured data and patient training, make for more robust data with fewer errors.
And we wouldn't want to conclude without pointing out that all of this efficiency ultimately reduces overall study expense. So the question you should be asking yourself is not if you want to go virtual, but rather how virtual can you go? We want to thank everyone for joining our seminar today. We are looking forward to your questions, and we will be available afterwards for any one-on-one discussions.